the mid-year freakout, the trend that's been going around everywhere on YouTube since June and on Book Talk, where people are freaking out about what they've read so far in the year, what they're planning on reading next, and I am taking this opportunity to do my summer book haul because I wanted to do this back in June, but I was waiting on a bunch of books to arrive, so now that they've finally come and I've started reading some of them, let's dive into it. So I have purchased a lot of books since about May or beginning of June, and all kinds of books, classics, fiction, like literary fiction, sci-fi. One major author that we're going to be going over today has made up the bulk of my purchases. I would definitely not advise buying as many books as I have in one sitting. I would say that's pretty irresponsible, but I was honestly just so excited I couldn't wait. I didn't want to put it off. I wanted to get them as quickly as possible so that I could start reading them as quickly as possible. But we're going to go over that today. So first things first, I just want to say, I feel like this past month, I've been a lot more consistent with reading my Bible every day. And that's something that I used to be pretty good at, and I kind of was putting it off for a while. I would make excuses, but I have been reading my Bible every day for a while now and spending more time in prayer. So for me, that's the most important thing. I've been basically rebuilding that discipline. So before I read whatever fiction or anything that I want to read in the day, I've been making it a point to read my Bible first. And that has just been helping me with growing closer to God and also enjoying what I've been reading overall. For those of you who've been following me on social media so far, it comes as no surprise that the bulk of my library additions have been Stephen King's Ultimate Storyteller collection. Basically, I've been buying almost every single Stephen King book, and specifically from the Hodder and Stoughton Ultimate Storyteller collection, because I just think they look so gorgeous on the shelf. I'm going to show that to you in a second, but those rainbow covers just look so beautiful on the shelf. And I knew that I wanted to dive into Stephen King, and so I wanted to just get all of his books, and if I don't like them later, I can sell them or give them away or something, or put them in little free libraries. But I think I'm going to grow to enjoy his style. I decided to start with The Shining. So I was actually going to start with Carrie because that's the first book he published, and a lot of people recommend it for getting started, but I was out of town, so basically I didn't have access to Carrie at that moment. I hadn't brought it with me physically, so I had to read on my Kindle. And so I ended up just spending a few bucks and getting The Shining. So I didn't actually read this physical book, but I did read The Shining in, I don't know how long it took me. It's on my Goodreads, maybe like a little over a week or something. I really liked it. It was very different from the movie. I had seen the movie first, and both of them are iconic in their own way. But if you haven't read The Shining yet, I recommend it, even if you've seen the movie. After reading The Shining, I decided to just go straight into Dr. Sleep. This is the sequel, aka The Shining #2, as it says on Goodreads. Just continuing that story of Danny Torrance. And I have to say, this one, like right off the bat, seems darker in a way. Like The Shining has had, I'm only about like maybe a third of the way through Dr. Sleep, but The Shining has had like it has a lot of like horror and psychological things to it, and Dr. Sleep does too, but I feel like it's a weird mix. To me, it seemed really dark right off the bat, and then it's kind of just been a little bit more tame throughout from what I've been reading. I'm sure that I'll probably pick up at some point, but I can see why a lot of people don't like it quite as much as The Shining. While I have you in the spot, I wanted to show my Harry Potter collection. So I had all of the books as a kid. I read the first 3 when I was in elementary school. I don't really care that much about the box, but I'm showing it in case people are interested. I love how the spines basically have Hogwarts as the artwork. I think it's so cool. I had all of the books growing up. I only read the first 3 when I was in elementary school, and I wanted to read the rest, but then I started watching the movies and I never made time to read them. Our bookshelf is full of my books. I used to have like almost everything that we owned on there, and once I started adding the Stephen King books, I basically had to turn it into our, like the top shelf is my husband's and everything else is my fiction. And so I have a lot of books that aren't on there, like nonfiction and Christian theology, Christian fiction, and I'm going to get into some of that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and make our way over to the shelf. Okay, so here's what our bookshelf is looking like so far. Top row, we've got the beginning of the fiction section, and I like to alphabetize by author just so it's easier to find things. I threw this in here really quick because this is one of my newer books that I bought. It's the complete Dead Sea Scrolls. So that doesn't actually belong in the spot. I just kind of put it here. And yes, I have 2 copies of The Stand. But here is the Stephen King Ultimate Storyteller Collection. And it's beautiful rainbow spine arrangement. Fun fact, if you're collecting this specific type of edition with the rainbow spines, there's a guy on Reddit who basically created a website with algorithms so that you can figure out how you want to organize the colors. Because you could do it in publication order, you can do it in alphabetical order. I normally would have liked to do alphabetical order, but I decided that the spines were just so beautiful. I wanted to put them in an arrangement that just looked really pretty on the shelf. And the video that I made on Instagram about these, it's just a quick video. I'll put it up on the screen, but basically I recorded myself literally like 3 or 4 times putting every single Stephen King book on the shelf. And basically I edited it so that it looked like each book was just appearing on the shelf on its own. And that video has blown up. So I have an Instagram, like a personal one. I haven't been using social media a ton in the past year or 2. So I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs of what makes a good Instagram video and how to tag it and everything so that it gets some more eyes on it. But that video was crazy. It got, I don't know, like 40,000 views in a few days. And last I checked, I think I put it up like a couple of weeks ago or something. I think it was around like a little bit before 4th of July, so the beginning of July, and it's been 2 weeks and it's already at 120,000 views with like 5,000 likes and over 100 comments, and it's just blowing me away. So I've really been enjoying responding to people's comments and, you know, answering people's questions. So check out my Instagram. Let me know if you have any tips and what you want to see on there. I also have a TikTok, but I've kind of just been, you know, spending more time on Instagram. So let me know what you want to see. But that is what the shelf is looking like right now. And now I kind of want to go over some of the individual books that I bought, some of the other sets, and what I plan on reading next. So now that I'm about 1/3 of the way through Dr. Sleep, I'm starting to think about which Stephen King book I want to read next. I'm thinking either Carrie or Misery because they are just staples in Stephen King's repertoire, and so many people recommend them as like a first read. A lot of people also recommend reading the short stories, some different short story collections like Different Seasons, Skeleton Crew. One of the reasons why I got almost everything, I'm still missing a few things. There are 2 books, The Talisman and Black House, that I haven't bought yet. And the third one, I'm gonna have to put the title on the screen. It's like Of Other Worlds or something like that. That one's coming out later this year in October. So I haven't bought those yet because I wanted to see if Hodder would publish a version that goes with this collection. If not, I can just get the normal ones, but it would be cool to get them matching. So the reason why I wanted to buy like all of them is because I wanted to be able to quickly bounce between whichever ones I want to read, and I'm really interested in eventually getting to the Dark Tower and just, you know, appreciating all of the connections from his stories, whether it's like what's happening in The Shining, or with Derry and Pennywise the Clown and the Castle Rock main collection, connections. I keep saying collections instead of connections. Forgive me. And then all of the different Dark Tower connections, obviously in the Dark Tower series and in other works. I was thinking of just doing like a Stephen King summer. Like I know a lot of people will go like use the summer ween trend. I don't really personally celebrate Halloween anymore, let alone moving it up into summer. I know I've got like Halloween spooky tattoos and stuff, but you know, ever since I gave my life to Jesus, I don't really care quite as much about Halloween. There is a lot of other stuff that I want to read, like some classics and some Christian fiction and stuff. So speaking of Christian fiction, I've had a couple of C.S. Lewis books, and I started reading or listening to, I think, the audiobook for Mere Christianity. This one here, it's not fiction, it's more theology, but I do want to start like rereading this one because I don't really remember it all that well. And I have Words to Live By. Comment down below if you know why the cover of this is the picture from Twilight. Is it like that on all of them? Or is it just, do I just have a weird copy? Like, why is it the same picture from Twilight? But a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I ordered these books. The Screw Tape Letters, The Four Loves, The Problem of Pain, and The Great Divorce. So The Great Divorce and The Screw Tape Letters are fiction. The other ones are more theological. So this is my C.S. Lewis collection as it stands. And I also got something that I read when I was younger, and I'm looking forward to actually reading the entire series. I got the Narnia box set. So when I was in 5th grade, my class read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And it's funny because I thought this book was the first in the series for Narnia, but it turns out it's book number 2. So like, why did we just randomly read book number 2? I have a feeling it was maybe because like the movie was coming out. I don't remember when exactly it came out, but probably had something to do with the movie. But when I ordered these and they arrived, I was surprised at how small they are. They're really small. It's like the size of my hand. I think it's just because they're short and it's written for children, so it's easier for kids to hold a small book. But I just wanted to show this little box set. So kind of staying along the same vein of Christian fiction, I've heard many people on YouTube recommending this short book, and I decided to get it because I plan on doing a video at some point where I'm trying to read as many short books as I can in a day or in 24 hours. So the book that was recommended a lot is called A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen Peck. And as you can see, it's a very short read. Basically the gist of this one is a man dies, and instead of going to hell, hell is a library, and he's supposed to find the book that's about his life, but there's an infinite number of books. So I guess you could kind of compare this maybe to like purgatory or something, but that's the extent of what I know about this book. All I know is that it's highly recommended by a lot of Christian booktubers, and so I'm looking forward to trying this one out. And I don't know if this wouldn't necessarily count as Christian, it's more just a classic, but I decided to get 12 Angry Men. Another really tiny read. I didn't realize when I bought it how short it was. It arrived and I was like, seriously? Like, I almost thought about returning it because I didn't think it was worth the price. But I decided to keep it because if I end up not wanting to keep it for a long time, I can just put it in a little free library and somebody else can have access to this classic. Another classic that I am really eager to read is The Count of Monte Cristo. Obviously, this book is a behemoth. It is massive. It is, what, like 1,200 pages or something? Or 1,300 pages, I'm not sure. This is a brick. And this is constantly topping people's lists of the best books they've ever read. I want to actually read this before watching the movie. I think there's some things that, you know, it's safe to watch the movie before reading the book because usually the book is better or goes into more depth about certain things. That's how I felt about Project Hail Mary. But this is definitely one I want to read before watching the movie. So with the size of this and everything else I want to read, that movie's going to take a while before I watch it. I just wanted to kind of point out some of the books I bought that were recommended by booktubers and that I'm looking forward to reading. Prince of Tides by Pat Conroy. Another novel that's just constantly on people's list of the top 10 books they've read in their entire life. I've heard that Pat Conroy is a master of characters, and The same is said about Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This book, I don't know how many times I've seen people recommend this book. They say it's a masterclass in character development and character writing. And, you know, just like many people who want to give this book a try, like I'm not really that into Western stories, but I've just heard so many good things about this, I had to get it. East of Eden, another classic that is constantly recommended. I ended up picking up a few other Steinbeck books, but this one, my mom and aunt read it in their book club, and everyone is constantly recommending this book, so I have to read it. Basically, I guess you could say this is Christian fiction as well. It's a retelling of the story of Cain and Abel from Genesis, so very much looking forward to reading this. Now I wanted to go over some books that I've thrifted recently from Goodwill and other thrift stores and like small mom and pop used bookstores. So the first, and these are all basically things that I either heard of it or I just completely bought it at random based off of the way it looked. So sometimes I judge books by their covers. So I found this one called Murder at the Flamingo. I know nothing about this book. I just thought it looked interesting. I found it at Goodwill. It was like, I don't know, $2 or $3 or something. And so I thought, if I ever, it's probably got to be a murder mystery, right? I went to a used bookshop that was, it's basically like the sister shop for my local library. And I found there was a lot of stuff there, but nothing that I was really interested in. So the only thing I found that really interested me was Dr. Zhivago. I know nothing about this story. I don't know anything about what it's about, but I've heard that name. I know it's a movie, so I decided to give it a try. On another book haul at Goodwill, I found all 7 of these, and I got them for like $24, so like less than the price of a book from Barnes & Noble. Don't get me wrong, I love Barnes & Noble, but it's expensive, so like most of the time I end up buying my books off of Amazon or trying to thrift them if I can, so I'm just going to go over these one by one. I read Project Hail Mary. Obviously, I have to read The Martian by Andy Weir. Weir? I don't know how to pronounce his name. I have not seen the movie. Another one I want to watch. So I figured maybe this one, like Project Hail Mary, is safe to watch the movie and then read the book because the book is probably better. So let me know if you agree with that statement or if you think I should read the book first. Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I know there's like a Netflix movie about this. Basically the gist of this one is like a woman loses her son, and I think the octopus is like really intelligent and trying to help her solve the mystery. That's all I really know about this. It has sprayed edges. Honestly though, I like kind of hate them. If you like it, I'm sorry. This also was not $12. It was $4. The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know a lot about this one. I have not seen the movie, and I don't really know what it's about, but, you know, Asian American culture, I wanted to give it a try. The Black Phone Stories by Joe Hill. Fun fact, Joe Hill is actually Stephen King's son, and my husband told me that, so when we came across this one at Goodwill, I decided to get it and give it a shot because his writing is probably also really good, right? The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is one that so many people talk about on TikTok and BookTube. And honestly, I got it because this was recommended to me by my aunt. She's actually, I think she either just read it or she's in the middle of reading it for her book club. So I wanted to give this one a try because I've heard very good things about it. And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with reading really popular books every once in a while. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've read this in, I want to say high school. I enjoyed it. I just bought this because I wanted to have it on my shelf. I'm probably going to read it again. Everyone knows The Great Gatsby. I don't have to go into it anymore. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I feel like this is a very controversial book. I don't know a ton about it. I know it has something to do with, it's like a dystopian novel about reproduction or something. So, you know, I don't really shy away from banned books or controversial books. I mean, I think there are certain topics sometimes that I might feel personally like not interested. I don't want to read it, or it's like off-putting to me for whatever reason. This one sounds like it's probably pretty jarring from what I've heard. So I decided I wanted to give this one a try. And, you know, sometimes you got to challenge yourself with what you're reading and, you know, have an open mind. I know a lot of people, this is kind of a good segue into this topic. So when I was scrolling on TikTok the other day, I was seeing a lot of videos about, like, from Christian women who were talking about why Christians shouldn't read fiction or shouldn't read secular books in general. And I think that's not really good advice. I can see the intention and the heart behind why they would say that. But if you think about, you know, what God calls us to be in this world, we are a light in the world, and we are in the world and not of it. But that doesn't mean that we're ignorant of the world. And I think reading different kinds of books that challenge us and kind of show us different perspectives, it's a way to apply what we know about God and how we think about and walk out our faith in different avenues of life. So like when I've been reading Stephen King, I know a lot of people probably feel convicted about reading certain books that, or certain authors that talk about or delve into topics that are uncomfortable or even evil. Things like, you know, sexual content, violence, abuse, crime. You know, you can take it to any angle of looking at the world, basically. Like, I don't think, like, some people, if they want to avoid those things, I don't see anything wrong with that. But at the same time, I don't think that your personal convictions should tell you, like, to dictate to other people how they should be reading or thinking about certain things. Just like when Paul was talking about how some of the Jews wanted to, in the early church, some of the Messianic Jews thought that they shouldn't be eating meat that was sacrificed to idols because they were sacrificed to idols and false gods. And some of the Messianic Jews, like, they felt stronger in their faith. They felt no conviction about that because idols and false gods have no power. They're meaningless. And so they thought, this is just perfectly good meat. Like, why shouldn't we eat it? And so Paul was basically saying, like, it's okay if you want to eat. It's okay if you don't want to eat. And this topic can apply to everything else, not just eating meat or not eating meat. But if you want to eat, like, okay, that's how you feel convicted. If you don't want to eat the meat, that's okay too. Don't judge one another and don't be a stumbling block for one another. So if I know that somebody feels personally more convicted than I do about certain topics, I'm not going to recommend reading about it. Like, if somebody can't handle certain topics personally, then I'm not going to recommend that author or that genre or whatever. But, you know, everybody has liberty in Christ. And Paul says we're not supposed to use that as an opportunity for the flesh or to sin, but to serve one another in love. So that's what I keep in mind when I'm thinking about, you know, controversial topics or secular versus sacred reading. That's kind of where I stand on it at this point in time. Another classic, Don Quixote by Cervantes. I don't know their first name, but I saw this one performed live, the play or the musical. I've not seen the movie, but iconic story. I definitely want to read it. Another brick, so it's going to be a while before I watch that movie probably. So that's basically going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you for joining me. Let me know what you're freaking out about reading right now, how many books you've read so far this year. Since I started later in the year, or it took me forever to read my first book of this year, I'm currently at 5. Once I finish Dr. Sleep, I will be at 6. So let me know in the comments below what you are reading, what you're looking forward to the most this summer. And, you know, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next one.